Hey guys, so it's Sunday. Just a disclaimer, there is a dog barking in the background because that's what happens in this house. So you'll hear that for a little bit until someone goes and, tell them to stop. But anyway, so it's Sunday. I promised you a video today because I did finish my statement of intent for my grad application and I am super excited. It was a little rough. I mean, I haven't been done writing like that in a long time in terms of like an application to, get into school. And it was a very different process because of the degree that I'm going for, which is the a license in marriage and family therapy. And it's a master's degree in the arts in marriage and family therapy. So it's very personal and it forces you to really look deep inside yourself and compare your life experience to why you want to be a marriage and family therapist. And it was really fascinating. It was really interesting to write because I learned something about myself in that time. And nothing really to like a eureka moment, but more that I realized how there's a word for it, and I'm blanking on it. I'll come back to that. But I realized how resilient I've been in my life, and just thinking about all these experiences that I had to fit into 500 words, between 200 and 500 words for each question. And some of these questions were very vague and open-ended about my childhood and my experiences in childhood that would lead me to pursue a master's in marriage and family therapy. And the program is very unique in the sense that the faculty, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so I'm working with just one faculty member. It's not a classroom setting, it's an online program, and they really, really get to know you, and you get to know them in a much more personalized setting. And, because when you work with clients, you're working one-on-one, and it kind of gives you that feel just from the beginning of the program on. I mean, I still don't know completely what I'm going to be encountering in this program. I'm sure I'm going to face some personal demons. I'm going to be working through my own issues at the same time, which I am, looking forward to because I'm not perfect. I still have issues to work out, and I have my flaws and things that I should be focusing on in my healing process and also in my relationships. So yeah, it's an exciting time. Aside from the things going on with my family, I get to see my parents and my brother next week. I'm really later this week, yay! They're coming up from Florida to see my grandmother, to visit her, and I'm just really excited to see them and spend time with them. Even though I'm going back down at the end of April to Florida because I need some sun. It's been snowing and raining here, and yeah, no more. But it's going to be a nice time. Just have my brother visit my grandmother. He hasn't seen her in like 2 years, just because he works all the time, and it's really hard for him to get time off. So he hasn't been back here where he grew up in 2 years. So I think he's really excited, and we're going to go to a St. Patty's Day party together. It's going to be great. But other than that, I had a rough week last week between work and having writer's block with this application, and just thinking about the dynamics in my family and how we've changed so much over the years. And something that I wanted to kind of discuss a little different than my previous topics, like on self-care and, protecting yourself, is more about putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. And I've mentioned this before in a previous video, but recently I came across a couple of situations where I was extremely exposed, and of my own free will. I mean, I chose to be honest and open with people, and I trusted them. And I haven't been betrayed or anything. It's just thinking about those situations and where I was coming from, it made me realize just how strong a person is when they can show weakness, when they can wear their heart on their sleeve. And that's something that I actually discussed in one of my questions for my statement of intent, is that, I find these things to be strengths, not weaknesses, because it takes more effort, in my opinion, to really put yourself out there and just be yourself without thinking about someone judging you or trying to hide a part of yourself that might not be accepted in society. And that is something that I've been really proud of myself for working on. I feel I've got more meaningful relationships with my friends and my family, just being honest and direct about what my goals are, what I'm feeling, what I have been through. And recently something came up. My mother was kind enough to look over my statement of intent, and one of the questions I had forgotten, that I hadn't shared something very personal about my experience with sexual assault with her. And that got me really thinking that I really need to focus on being more direct and honest with her and trusting that she's going to react in a way that's understanding and non-judgmental of me. And I know she loves me unconditionally. It's just an interesting thing to think about, that there's been a part of myself that I've been holding back from certain people, and specifically her, in that instance anyway. So that's been really eye-opening for me, to really think about who I'm opening up to and why I am and why I was hiding it in the first place. I mean, I preach that there's nothing to be ashamed of when you go through something in life. You can feel what you need to feel. It's validated. But then I looked at myself and I was like, I wasn't taking my own advice in this instance. So I just had to kind of put that out there, because I still do it myself. I still hide parts of myself, and I don't want to. I mean, in certain cases it's necessary, but with the people who are closest to me and the people that I love the most, how they react to what I tell them is not my responsibility. It's nothing I can do anything about. And of course, I can approach people in a more sensitive and caring and, not defensive or attacking way. But ultimately, it's up to them how they're going to feel. And that's not in my control. And I feel like a lot of us let that decide how we interact with people, how we connect with them, which is kind of interesting, because we care so much about them that we don't want to fully show them who we are, because we don't want them to judge us. And when someone loves you, they're supposed to love everything about you. If they truly love you, I mean, your friends and family, your chosen family, your romantic partner, they are supposed to love you, despite your background, despite your baggage, maybe your flaws. And I'm not saying you shouldn't work on those things that you can work on, but certain people have a certain personality, and we feel sometimes that others will judge us or not accept us. And I've gotten better at just being like, well, this is who I am, and if you can't accept me as I am, then I don't need you in my life. But for a lot of people, it's a big struggle, and I just wanted to address that, because I personally didn't realize that I had closed a part of myself off from my mom, and she's one of the closest people in my life. And granted, there is a certain line that you can't really cross with family, depending on your relationship or depending on, your past experience with them. But that's the thing, is people change and they grow, and they learn ways to cope with their own demons and their own personal issues. And how someone's reacting to what I'm telling them it's not my job to make them feel better. I mean, I'm not saying I don't care, but it's a burden that you don't have to place on yourself. And I had that burden, I put that burden on myself in this whole situation, and I had no idea. It was just really interesting. So that's just one part of, certain things that I discovered about myself when doing this statement of intent. And there was another piece that I really needed to discuss or address, at least, was the idea of expectation. In my life, I've had plenty of really good friends and family and supportive family members, but expectation is the root of miscommunication, and everyone says communication is the most important piece in a marriage or a friendship or a relationship or anything, but it's expectation. We all come into life and relationships with expectations, whether the person knows what those expectations are or not. Half the time, we just expect them to know our expectations. And in the past week or so, I've kind of realized that in a couple of my relationships and friendships, and how that's affected my relationships with people. It's quite interesting to think that I had all these expectations in my head, and I'm the one disappointing myself because I never told these people what I was looking for, what I wanted, or what I needed from them, and yet I'm getting upset and depressed, and how come they aren't doing this thing that I wanted them to do that they didn't know they had to do? It's just a funny thing. So expectations are very important to, maintain, in a sense that you don't want to expect too much from something, but you also don't want to not expect enough from something, and then let yourself be disappointed when you didn't specify what you were looking for, or you sacrificed something that was important to you because you didn't want to, cause an issue with this person. But then you're going to be resentful. Then you're going to hold that against them, and it's going to just fester. So, big two things is finding appropriate ways to open up to the people who are closest to you without worrying about their judgment. Because if they do judge you, then they weren't really a true friend of yours in the first place. Granted, or with the exception of killing someone or doing something horrible to somebody else on purpose and to hurt them, that's a little different. But in general, we're all people. We're all human. No one's perfect. And we have our flaws. We make mistakes. It's about being direct, and if someone hurts you, tell them. If someone's disappointing you, reach inside yourself and realize, or not realize, but think about whether you told the person what you needed, whether you were direct about it, and whether it's something else that's bothering you that you are letting seep into this relationship with this person. Because I've been doing that recently with a couple of people, and it's definitely difficult sometimes to really look inside yourself and get out of that denial state and just accept that you have baggage and you have healing to do, and you are not completely over some of the most traumatic experiences in your life. And sometimes you never are. Sometimes it's just moments where you will feel this pain again, this grief, and it'll just affect these relationships subconsciously. And so I think being more aware of what you expect from people and letting them be the judge of their emotions and their reactions towards you when you tell them something. Just be who you are, be direct, be honest. No one's going to fault you for wearing your heart on your sleeve and showing your emotion and showing you care, because if they do, then they don't belong in your life. So that's pretty much it for today. I think 14 minutes or 15 minutes is enough. But I'll be back with another video probably Wednesday or Thursday, pending how my interview goes for this grad school. It's kind of informal, and it's really more just elaborating on what I wrote in my statement of intent, because 200 to 500 words per question was definitely not enough time for me to really give all the examples of things that have shaped me and made me pursue this degree. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully I will have a good response for you on Wednesday or Thursday when I have already had my interview. Crossing my fingers. And then from there it's just financial aid and all that stuff to figure out, but the bulk of the work is done. Well, in terms of the application, obviously it's going to be a very intense program, but I'm really, really excited. I have not been this excited about something in a very long time, and the support I've gotten from those of you who have listened to me whine about the statement of intent or read some parts of it for me to get, give me some feedback, because they ask you to be, or they tell you to have it at the grad school writing level. I don't know what that is. So I just kind of, tested it out and figured out, what worked. And hopefully that's acceptable for them. But my enrollment counselor said that some other people have actually copied and pasted the same response to all the questions. And some people have spelled things incorrectly or used improper grammar, so I think I'll be okay. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I just really want to get started and, start working towards my future and helping people. And that's something that's really, really valuable to me, and I am thrilled to be taking the step, so we'll see what happens. But have a great rest of your weekend. I hope your day is not as dreary and gross outside as mine. But yeah, small wins. Alrighty. Keep breathing, guys. Have a good one.